questions for Coach Smart. So let's go ahead and begin with Dean Legge, and then we'll go to Anthony Dasher.
Kirby, I know y'all are getting other things ready during the week or this time. Your offensive line seems to have sort of picked up as 4 games have gone on, certainly compared to the Arkansas game. Have y'all looked at moving guys around in any way, or are you just going to kind of stick with what's working so far?
You said we picked up what since Arkansas? Or are you asking
like
about continuity?
Well, it seems like the offensive line has played better since the Arkansas game. Is that correct? And then are y'all still working with guys there? Are you shuffling guys in and out or not?
In spurts, we've played better. I mean, certainly the production has been better. I think they're a little more comfortable. I can't really explain the Arkansas game other than we didn't move guys and didn't execute real well. It turned into a passing game. It seemed like we threw it a lot. There wasn't a lot of run game there in the second half. But I thought they did some good things in each game. We've got some guys that have played, between Trey, Ben, and Jamari. They played a lot of football. Even Schaefer played a lot of football for us around here. And they're playing at a better level, probably not where we need to in terms of being elite. But they work hard each day, and we shuffle guys in practice. We have to be prepared for an injury, So the second 5 have all worked, and each one of those guys in the first 5 have kind of doubled up at a second position as an emergency situation. But it's really right now about developing the younger guys and continuing to get them better and trying to get our first guys to execute at a higher level.
Hey, Coach, what was Stetson's goal going into the bye week as far as practices is concerned, and how do you think he's been able to do thus far?
Well, first goal was to do a better job protecting the ball in terms of 2 hands on the pocket, 2 hands while in the pocket, and also when running. If you've noticed, he had the one against Alabama that came out. He scooped it up. He runs with the ball in one hand. So we made a concerted effort to improve that. Second was decision making, downfield throws and check downs. And then the third thing was, putting us in the right play and making good decisions. He worked really hard on those things. Some of it's movement in the pocket, which awareness. I thought that he could learn a lot from Jake in terms of, pocket awareness. Where are the holes at in the pocket? Where's the rush? Where can I step up and do some things like that? What was the second part?
No, just how he's able – you've answered the question. Just how he's been able to do so far.
I think he's done well with that. I mean, it's hard to simulate that because we don't have games, but we try to do it with competitive third down and pass periods.
Nice. All right, let's go to Jake Rowe and then Chip Towers.
Hey, Kirby, I wanted to check on Kenny McIntosh and what you've been able to see from him this week and his status as far as injury goes, and also Monty Rice. I know Monty has been dealing with a little bit of a foot injury. What do you expect from those two this week?
Yeah, we're hopeful on Kenny that he'll be able to play. And then kind of the same way with Monty, he's able to practice at a limited amount with his foot sprain. And he was able to go in the Alabama game. We're certainly thankful for that. And gave him some time off in the off week to recover. And his biggest thing is maintaining his cardio right now.
Kirby, I just want to ask you specifically, obviously, explosives were an issue against Alabama. I think they're going to be an issue for a lot of people who play Alabama, but specifically to the big plays that they were able to hit on your secondary. Did you feel like that was a product of scheme or execution? In other words, obviously Tyson Campbell's out there on that island on that play and he slips and there's no recovery from something like that against those guys. Just your take on the explosives, and I know that's the last thing you ever want to see.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's in the past. We did corrections the Monday after the game, and we've been past it since then. And most important thing is that we don't continue to give them up. When you play the style of defense we play, and you play how you have to play to stop Alabama, I mean, is it easier to hand the ball off to Najee, or is it harder to throw and catch it? I mean, you gotta be able to stop the run, and to do that, you got to be able to play some man-to-man. It's tough because they got good guys out there. And some of those plays were explosives because of miscommunication, and some of them were guys got beat, and you're going to get beat. There's nothing that's shameful about getting beat in a one-on-one situation against a great athlete, but you can't hand out, you can't give out things. You can't give up a wheel route when you've got a guy man. That's not. He didn't beat us. We just didn't have discipline. You can't slip down, fall down. They didn't beat us. We just fell down. So some of them were scheme and some of them were there. Some of them were some really good plays they ran and getting their guys in one-on-one situations. It was a combination of both, and we can't suffer from either and be a good team.
Okay, let's go to Mark Weiser and then Mike Griffith.
Kirby, your team has a pretty rigorous schedule away from home in terms of distance. You have to travel for some of these games this season. How challenging is that during a season played in COVID, and what are some of the changes made to travel as safe as possible?
Yeah, the distance traveled, it's a plane, so it's like most of them are planes. So it's just minutes in terms of how much longer you have to be on the plane. And then the return home is kind of the same thing. So you're spending a little more time on the plane. But in terms of COVID protocol, we have a seating chart. We don't let certain guys of like positions sit near each other in the hopes of spreading guys out. We try to keep roommates at home close to each other because they've already been exposed. We're trying to crisscross and not have an exposure knock somebody out if somebody were to test positive. But that's the biggest difference. What
about in the hotel? Anything in particular there that stands out?
Don't ride the elevators. Don't ride with anybody you don't know. Don't hang around in the lobby. We have less people sitting at a table, therefore spreading out more. So we've had some precautions there that we've learned from other teams that have had issues on the road, and doesn't mean we're perfect by any means, but we try to learn.
Kirby, you mentioned Najee Harris a second ago. He had 31 carries against you guys and looked like he really got in a groove. Do you have a hot hand theory or the rotation? Is it pre-prescribed? The reason I ask that, it's been since the Kentucky game last year since Georgia's had a touchdown run over 30 yards. I just wonder if there's anything to rhythm for backs or how you decide how many carries a guy gets in a row.
No, I coached running backs here, and I didn't think a lot of that. I thought, a hot hand has a lot to do with it. Healthy hand has a lot to do with it. Wear and tear has a lot to do with it. We're in a long season, and ability to sustain that. I don't know what Najee weighs, but he's a big back, and big backs can handle that more. Most of our backs are 210, 212, 215, and some of them are 195. So you have to be careful about the wear and tear and the amount of carries they get simultaneous. And also a lot of it is our guys play a lot on special teams, and our guys factor in a lot of different ways. So we think if you're good enough to play, you should get an opportunity to play. And we thought there was one guy that stood out a lot better than the others. I can assure you he'd be in there.
All right, let's go to Seth Emerson and then to Brandon Sudge.
Kirby, I hope I'm asking this in a new way. Everyone's kind of agreed at this point the offenses are ahead of the defenses. The great offenses are ahead of the great defenses. How long do you think it's going to take the defenses to catch up? And is there you're not going to give away any magic formula you might be devising, but what's the toughest part about it?
There's no magic potion to me for catching up. There's no if there's a scheme that hasn't been invented, I'll be shocked because it's the coverages that people play and the defenses people play have stood the test of time. So as the offenses innovate, the defenses try to catch up. But the game's built to entertain and score points. Nobody wants a 9-6 game. They don't enjoy that. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a tough physical toughness. I think it's a rock'em sock'em game. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It can be a great game and be 9-6, but nobody's entertained by that. So the world we live in today is entertained by points. The rules are not set up to score points. I'm not saying that, but there's definitely an advantage in terms of the number of snaps offenses take. When you look at a game where somebody takes 90 snaps, that never used to happen. So as snaps go up, as the passing game increases, as the skill level increases in high school, there's less people to defend it. The best players 20 years ago in high school sometimes were DBs, and now their skill guys are wideouts, and you're trying to play catch up to cover guys. So I don't know when they'll catch up. I don't know if they'll catch up. I really don't care if they catch up. Our job is to do the best job defending those kind of offenses that we can, and we want to defend them better than others. And I think we can do that. I think we have, if you recruit well and you have good enough athletes, good enough players, you can defend great offenses better than everybody else. Doesn't mean you're going to stop them, but it does mean you can defend them better than everybody else. It means you better be able to score yourself.
Hey, Kirby, I wanted to ask you about next Tuesday and the day off on Election Day. How have you guys kind of interpreted that rule in terms of what you guys can do as a team? Like, do you guys plan to go vote as a team? Do you plan to have any activity like that? And how does the off day kind of change anything, your perspective on that?
Well, I would be remiss if I answered that right now because I don't fully know. It's one of those things we've communicated and talked to people around the SEC, and I'm not really focused on it, to be honest with you right now. I got a lot to focus on with Kentucky, and we have had people come in and speak recently during the off week. We had a guy come visit with us, Steve Jones from Atlanta, who did a tremendous job and explained a ballot, how to go vote, what you're voting on, more than just who the president's going to be. There's a lot of intricacies into the ballot that our kids may not understand. So we've done a bunch of voter education things, and we've encouraged our guys to vote. And most of our kids are going out and voting, early before next Tuesday. But as far as exactly how Tuesday is going to go, I'm not sure just right now.
All right, let's go to William with the red and black, and then we'll follow up with Lance from Bulldog Illustrated.
Hey, Coach. Looking ahead to Kentucky, not the most productive offense and obviously a really run-focused team. Do you feel like you can be extra aggressive, especially with your front seven, knowing they're going to keep it on the ground for a lot of the game?
Well, I definitely think that you have to stop the run when you play Kentucky, first and foremost. Okay, I'm sure they're over there, searching for ways to increase the passing game and do a good job because they know that they can't be one-dimensional. They know that. They got good football coaches. They're looking for things that complement what they do, and they've been successful doing it. They weren't real successful in the last game doing it, but they've been successful before doing it. They had great success 2 years ago against us. Throwing the ball, especially late in the game. So, and it was with Terry Wilson. So for us, we got to worry about us, and we got to go out and play a good football game. We got to out execute them. We got to have our guys mentally and physically ready to play because I know the coaches on Kentucky staff, they do a really good job. They'll have their team ready to play.
Hey, Coach, I recently spoke with one of your former players who's over at Sanford, Joel Goins, and followed up on Brandon's question, not how the voting is going to go next week, but he said people inside their locker room over there in Birmingham are just, they're excited, they're ready to vote. Is there any inspiration inside your locker room for all that?
Yeah, our guys have been very adamant. We've had an athletic department push to try to get 100% of our student athletes to vote, and we've encouraged our players to be part of that. And that was one of the things early on in the process that was very important to them. It's why we took them down and got them all registered. And a lot of them have voted. So the hope is that all of them will, and we're certainly going to give them the opportunity to do so if they want to.
Okay, let's go to Connor Riley and then Palmer.
Hey, Kirby, in the wake of the Jalen Waddle injury, there's been a discussion of playing your best players on special teams, and I know that's something you're very passionate about. How does continuing to play them on special teams sort of help them continue to develop, especially when they're already playing big roles on either offense or defense?
How does it help them what?
Continue to develop.
Well, I mean, it's obvious to me it helps their team win the game. I mean, isn't that the objective, to win the game? I mean, I don't know. I don't know when it became that special teams is higher. If special teams is higher risk to get injured, then I don't want my son on it. I mean, well, let's take it out of the game. I mean, that's not fair. It's not fair to go back and try to second guess who's on special teams because there's 11 young men on our team and 11 on their team. And if it's any more high risk, then, I mean, that's what the safety committee does. They come out and put things in. You can't have a wedge. You can't have a two-man shield. They've done all these things to protect from injury. Injuries are going to happen in football, guys. It's going to happen, and it's very unfortunate. And I'm sick for that young man because he is as electric a football player as I've ever seen. And he's a great football player. And he's a great kid. And he's fun to watch. I mean, he created all kinds of problems for us in terms of special teams. So, I mean, if you're not going to let him play on it, then what's the point in kicking it off? Let's just put it on the 25-yard line. That doesn't make sense.
Kirby, how would you assess your defensive line play so far this season, specifically the outside guys and their ability to get to the quarterback?
I think we've been more disruptive. I think Dan and the defensive staff have done a great job creating ways to make those guys more effective, whether it's dropping them, rushing them, covering them. I mean, they've added some wrinkles that have helped us and allowed those guys to make some plays and statistically improve in terms of hits and sacks and things like that. We still got a long way to go. I mean, look, our last performance wasn't our best, but we won't be defined by it either.
We got time for 2 more questions. Anybody want to jump in? Anybody? Last call.
Hey, Kirby, you might have talked about this a little bit yesterday, but Joey Gatewood, when you looked at film of him, there isn't that much I know, but what are some of the things that stand out if you guys have to face him?
Big, very athletic, maybe not as fast as Terry, straight line fast, but change of direction. He's really good. We recruited him out of high school, knew a lot about him. Throws the ball well, good decision maker. He's been there for a while now, and I'm sure, like everybody, they wish they'd gotten spring to go through things. But they didn't know for a while that he was going to be deemed eligible, and from the time he has, they've worked him in. They've gotten him playing time in some games, and I certainly respect him and think he's a really good football player. He's big, physical, hard to tackle, and in that offense, when you combine the ability to throw, you can imagine if Lynn Bowden was a better passer last year, how hard it would have been to defend.
Matt Landers and Owen Condon, coach, any update on their health status? Anybody else out for the game?
Yeah, Matt is good. He practiced today. He's doing good. He's still got lingering effects, but we think he's going to be able to play, and he's done a good job. Owen is I think he's at 95%. He's taking all the reps with the twos at right tackle, and I think he's back good to go.
All right. Thanks, Coach.